Guys, we have Jack and Jack in the studio. Let's give it one time for Jack and Jack.
Hey.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us, man.
Of course, guys. Obvious question. Where have you been?
That is a good question.
That's a great question. I think I'll start it off.
Yeah.
I think we there was a long period of like where we really couldn't release music together because we kind of got stuck in these like separate contracts by like our ex-manager and label, and it was just kind of like this weird situation, and you know, we obviously wanted to keep making music together. We were making music together. We just couldn't release it.
Right.
Yeah, and so finally, you know, we've wiggled our ways out of those situations, and now we know what we like kind of don't want to do, and like we don't want to give somebody too much power to the point where they could ever like split us up again or make that decision for us in a sense. And so, you know, we've kind of cleaned house. We got a new team. We have, you know, great new management, and we are like making the music that we want to make with the people that we vibe with, the producers that, you know, we have a rapport with, and it just feels like it's almost like the early days again of Jack and Jack, you know, and it's exciting, you know.
Yeah.
We still have time on our side, I feel like, and
for sure.
the best music is yet to come for sure, and so it's all exciting stuff on this end.
How do you get put in that situation where you guys are, I guess, signing separate deals?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was like, you know, we put our trust into someone who we, like I said, we really trusted. And when that person comes to us with an idea, and they're really excited about it and they believe in this idea, and, you know, we trust them fully, and they've guided us through this industry previously. And so we just were like, yeah. Like,
it started off as like we always wanted to make individual music. You know, we are our own artists. As you know, as much as I think we are like greater than ever when we come together, it's like individually we can still bring a lot to the table, and we kind of operate in different wheelhouses when I think like our individual records, you know, which we are still going to be releasing. But I think back then it was kind of presented to us in a sense of, okay, you guys, you should make some solo projects. We'll take a very brief hiatus from Jack and Jack, and then like, you know, but we'll still be, you know, preparing for the next era, like top of the next year. And then it ended up being, oh, we get signed in these different deals, and like it seems like, okay, this mastermind plan that our manager had the whole time was like actually not for us to ever get back together. It kind of started feeling like, and yeah, it was just kind of a weird period because we were both like a little bit like lost in a sense because we were so used to doing everything with our best friend by our side, and I think it was a very liberating time for both of us too. We both figured out kind of more about ourselves in the studio and more about ourselves musically.
for sure.
But yeah, like I said, I'm just glad it didn't go on for too long, and we figured out how to get out of that situation because a lot of artists, you know, can get stuck in these industry nightmares,
shady deals,
and never find their way out, you know, and it just
Yep.
sinks the whole ship. And luckily, you know, our ship's still floating along, and
Totally
I think
is.
it's ready for, you know, the 7 seas, so to speak. Let's get after it.
I want to know, why do you feel like that they wanted to, because you said it felt like they wanted to keep you guys away from each other, right?
Yeah.
Why do you feel like that's the case?
I don't know. It was so
Honestly,
weird because
don't know.
they made us go ghost on like all our socials. We couldn't even tell our fans and our supporters, the people who have put us in this position, the truth about what was going on. Like, and we obviously could have, but we're like, okay, we trust our manager, and we'll say it at the right
like
time.
we had access to the account, but
And then
but
eventually,
when someone's
like,
telling you, like, not to
eventually
post.
nobody even said anything, and like it's almost like we forgot about it, and like our fans were so frustrated. But back to your original question, what was it you said?
But right quick, was it more hearsay? Like the manager speaking in your ear saying like, go ghost on the Instagram. This will
Exactly.
make you bigger. You
Exactly.
know, like
For
people
sure.
keep people wanting more, blah, 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 blah.
Exactly, and we were always like a bit taken aback by it, but we're like, man, we trust this guy so much. Like, you know, he said he's got us. Like, let's just give it a chance, you know. And we always thought we should keep releasing J&J records while we were doing our solo shit. You know, can I cuss on you?
No.
My bad. While we were doing our solo stuff, might have to
Right.
bleed it. But yeah, it got to the point where it seemed like there was going to be no reconciliation between us, and our manager had no plans of that. And yeah, I don't know. It was just a weird situation.
I want to know, how did you guys come to the conclusion that this was happening?
Well, honestly, for the first few months, maybe even 6 months, we didn't even talk about we talked all the time, and we kicked it and had great times together, but we never talked about our individual music careers and the plans for those careers. So when I was making music in the studio and going to like dance class and stuff like that wasn't really necessarily who I was. I never really told Johnson about it, but we would come together at 7 p.m. after having full days of making music and stuff. And then we just disregard the fact that we were working separately that day. And so,
Yeah, it was a weird thing because like it's like it was more like we never don't talk about anything, and that was like the first time I felt like we weren't like talking about something constantly that's going on in our lives, you know. And I don't know whether it was like,
A weird competition?
yeah, but like
I don't think
But
that's
nah,
what it was.
yeah.
Because we're so different. Like, you'll hear our solo music. It's just like, they're totally separate. Like, if I was like a rapper, you know, then maybe we would battle a little bit. But like, my music's so much different, and his music is so much different than mine. But I don't know. I just feel like after like a few months, and I had like a new creative director, and I had the same manager that we had as Jack&Jack, and then Johnson was kind of working with someone else.
I was like working with him, but I could tell he wasn't as into my stuff as he was into G's, and so like
that's kind of when we like felt there was like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah, because I'm like, okay, so this guy's like now like I feel like kind of distant from him, and I was like working on replacing him with somebody else at the time because I'm like, if you're not all in on if you're all in on him, then like and not on me, it's like that's totally fine. But I got to move forward, accordingly. I can't just be distant from the person who is so-called my manager. And then
I signed a deal like that summer of 2019, right after we got off tour, and I was like just expecting like, oh, like Johnson's gonna sign a deal with the same label because we're signed to that label as Jack&Jack. Like I'm sure they're just gonna sign us both. And then he didn't sign a deal, and I was like, okay, like I was just confused about like the order of operations and how everything's gonna come out, and are we gonna strategically release like my stuff and then his stuff, and then Jack&Jack comes back, or like we had all these questions. Probably like to answer your question more directly, like maybe like half a year after we went on our last Jack&Jack tour, we knew it was like, what is going on? And like you said, like we didn't know if we'd ever come back together.
It was weird because it's like, man, I can't imagine never performing again on stage with Jack G, or even like performing by myself nonetheless. Like, I did one like live stream show for my first EP, my first solo EP, and like even that, like it was dope. I was stoked with how it turned out, but like even just like the presence, it's like it's so nice having somebody there who can like fill the empty space, or if I'm running out of breath during a verse, like you would finish some of my lyrics on stage during my rap verses, and so it's like it was the whole prospect of us being separated forever. I feel like we always knew that was not going to be the case.
Yeah, it would never happen, but
at the temporary time, it's like, how long is this going to happen for? Like we just had a lot of unanswered questions for sure.
I will say, I think it's really amazing when things start to click. You know what I'm saying? When you start to realize what's actually happening, so you guys can form a plan as to get back together and do your thing.
Yeah, once all the hidden agendas came to light and like just all these things, it made it easier for us to be like, okay, now we know what we really have to do. This isn't somebody that we can trust, yada yada, and
So do the fans know?
Yeah. So actually, I think this might be like the second time we've really spoken in depth about it. We did an interview with Zach Sang, a month ago, and that was like the first time we like actually aired it out, like the whole top to bottom, everything that went down. And this is probably like our second time even talking about it, like this in depth. I know. We were have a podcast together, and so it was kind of like one of those things, like how can we still work while we can't make music together contractually? So
it's always a loophole.
Yeah. And so we were doing a podcast with our best friends, Sammy and Brant, and we talked about it on there. I think during an episode like maybe half a year ago.
Yeah.
But it's like now I feel like we can fully talk about it now that this new era is upon us, and like we never want to throw anybody under the bus. We never want to name drop anyone, but things got weird, and we felt like we got kind of screwed over by some people, and here we are. That's pretty much the gist of it.
What's interesting? I feel like it says a lot about you if you don't want to necessarily throw someone under the bus who necessarily did not have your best intentions at heart.
Yeah, no point in that. Negative energy. Just, I like talking about the situation, but it's like I would never want to bring somebody else down while speaking on it. It's like there's no point in that. Live and let live.
Because you don't want that to come back.
Yeah, and who
knows?
Like
just the karma, you know what I'm saying?
And like,
exactly.
We have a gut feeling about a lot of this stuff, but like who knows like real intentions? Like I don't know. It's just it doesn't matter that much at the end of the day because here we are now talking to you, and that's what we're gonna focus on. So.
That's so dope. So so when you guys were working separately, right?
Yeah.
Was there any anxiety? Was there any like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing it by myself? I'm used to having my dude with me. Was that the case?
For sure, that was definitely the case. I mean, I can speak on how I felt for sure. I was just like. Anxiety is the perfect word because I was thinking, like he said, like, how am I going to perform alone? Like, I've never done that before. How am I going to, like, I don't know. I was comfortable making music on my own, but at the same time, I didn't necessarily, like, do the best job of having my own back in the studio. So, like, if I was making something that I didn't necessarily love, but all these other people in the studio loved it, I would kind of just force myself to, like, get into it, even though I didn't love it. So there was just a lot of anxiety thinking about, okay, like, tours coming up, even though we didn't know the pandemic was going to happen. But I was like, how am I going to do this alone? Just didn't really make sense. And then also the anxiety of like, but how are we going to tie Jack&Jack into this when it felt like our manager didn't really have any intention of doing that? So
yeah, I think like I feel like I knew exactly kind of what I wanted to make musically. So like that part didn't give me much anxiety. The part that did more so was like the infrastructure around me. Like he had like a very solid, like industry infrastructure, and I'm like, okay, like I know he's gonna be getting these playlists, he's gonna be getting these like really good looks,
right?
although, like, granted, like you said, you weren't the biggest fan of the music you were making.
Right.
Me, on the flip side, I was a huge fan of the music I was making. But then I'm like, okay, how am I gonna like actually get this out there to the world? You know, and it was a little bit difficult, you know, not having like, you know, going from this like big team to like, you know, kind of moving independently for the first time. But you know, I think I also learned a lot about my business on the back end and like, you know, just little things like my own like, you know, personal like banking finances, like, you know, how to even like how to like send out wires to people, like if I'm like funding a music video or something. It's like it kind of made me really intrigued and learn a lot about the business. But the anxiety did come because I'm like, yeah, I don't know like how I'm gonna actually diffuse this song the right way through these markets and then, you know, get people to pay attention. You feel me?
Looking back at it, did you ever think to yourself, okay, maybe this had to happen in order for me to really pay attention as to what's going on, pay attention to contracts, pay attention to bank accounts, pay attention to the people around me?
I mean, spot on. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like we know now, like I said earlier, exactly like what not to get into again. And I'm kind of grateful that it did happen because, you know, I know you even got the tattoo of the butterfly. We're big believers of the butterfly effect. Everything happens for a reason, the way it's supposed to happen. And, you know, at the same time, you can control your own destiny. But I think if that weren't to have happened and we were like still in this like, you know, management label situation, even at the end of our Jack&Jack tenure, you know, when, you know, we were still making J&J stuff, a lot of the records we were making were just kind of like demos that we just kind of regurgitated the words back. And, you know, we didn't really have a real connection to a lot of these songs at the same time. Not saying I don't like any of the songs, but I think it kind of lacked that really like emotional connection that an artist is supposed to have with their music, you know? And so I'm kind of grateful that this did happen because even if we stayed doing like Jack&Jack the way we were doing it, I felt like there might have been a plateau at hand because it wasn't truly allowing us to flourish as the artists that we know we are and know we can be, you know?
Which is interesting because you really can't be mad at that situation
No.
when it helps you grow and turn into a better artist.
Absolutely. 100%. So I have like no bad blood like about anything. It's just it's nice to talk about it sometimes and just, you know, get it off your chest. 100%. Yeah. Right. A little therapy session. You know?
So tell me about Runaway.
Runaway. What do you want to know? Like just
how did that come about?
Okay, so Runaway,
we were living together actually.
We were living together in
2021. Beginning of 2021. You and our buddy and Johnson and Mikey Ferrari, he's a really talented songwriter. They were like messing around with some like reggae chords, writing this hook.
And then we had the hook finish, and it was just a hook, essentially. And it was Mikey's voice on it. And we would play it all the time in the gym or like just around the house. Yep. And G, like, he loved the record so much. He's like, dude, like, that should be our comeback song. When we started talking about the prospect of like, I think we can make music again now. Like, he was getting out of his deal, like, things like seemed like it seems like the skies were clearing up a little bit. You know, the clouds were dissipating.
And the song didn't really like Mikey loved the song, but it didn't align with the rest of his other music. And he was like, well, I wouldn't be able to really put this out anyways.
It wasn't his vibe. And
so we were like trying to make reggae music, trying to make like that cool reggae vibe.
And the thing I like is, you know, it has the reggae undertones, which is like, you know, what we grew up on in high school, you know, the Slightly Stupids, the Peppers, Sublime. I mean, like it was like that. And I feel like a lot of like hip hop in high school, like it was pretty much those two genres predominantly, you know? And so we're like, okay, how can we, you know, bring a genre that we love maybe into a place of limelight where it doesn't get the recognition I think it deserves? You know, the last big reggae song we heard was probably Rude by Magic. You know, that's the last one I can think of that actually took the scene by storm. And so we're like, okay, how can we, you know, kind of hybridize like what we do as Jack&Jack with, you know, the music that we love. And so you'll notice in the undertones, it's very reggae driven with, you know, the off chord strums or the offbeat strums. But then at the same time, it's like it goes into my verse and it turns into hip hop with 808s out of nowhere. And then it like pulls back out. So it's like, it's interesting the way it flows and it feels like very original, very fresh, something I've never really heard a record like it, to be honest. And yeah, the actual like, I guess, subject matter of the song kind of came about. I had just finished the second season of Euphoria and like for some reason the girl running away from home, this hypothetical situation, Rue's situation, it really stuck with me, it, like struck a chord with me. And so I was like, how do we like, how do I interpolate this into a song? Because I remember Stay With Me, we made that based off like 13 Reasons Why.
Exactly,
that show really inspired us and like did something to us. And so, yeah, that along with just like, you know, a lot of our fans are teenage girls, probably in their 20s now, a lot of them, they've grown up with us. And it felt like, you know, I know how hard that time period can be as a guy or a girl, you know?
No matter what you're...
Feeling lost in stuff.
Feeling lost in stuff.
Yeah, but no matter like where you come, like what your family situation is like, your friend situation, like anyone, like even who seems like they have like the perfect situation at home can still feel those moments of like, you know, like they want to get away from their life.
And like they want to go down this slippery slope, which you know, like there's probably times where we could have gone down that slope.
For
you know,
sure.
even being out
Anyone.
here in LA, and
Yeah.
you know, where we just like we're not career focused and just having too much fun in the city, and it's like
It is so easy to get caught up in this city.
it is,
Very
man, isn't
easy.
it? There's a lot to do here, and so yeah, Runaway kind of stemmed from that, and then we just kind of built out this, and we tried to kind of interpolate that in the music video too, with our homegirls Kiana and Saxon. Shout out to them.
Yeah.
The music video like really captures kind of we're like we can't just do a basic performance video to
No.
a song with this type of subject matter, you know, as lively and upbeat as the song is, it's like, you know, it's about some serious stuff, and so yeah, I think the video has a good kind of like balance of really telling the story of this girl who's going through it after like losing her best friend and her parents, you know, her at home issues, and then kind of juxtaposing that with these kind of upbeat and lively performance shots of me and G. It felt like a good hybrid. So
100%.
yeah, that's kind of the Runaway story, I suppose.
I love that. So tell us, now that you guys are back together, you guys are doing your thing, what else do we have to look forward to?
A lot. I mean, consistent music and music videos, of course, as any artist should give and feed their
I
fans.
think this might be the first time we're going to be like really consistent
Yeah.
because we can kind of drop on our own watch now, you know?
100%.
Yeah, that's a big one.
We have a documentary that we're coming out with that kind of really in depth explain almost what we've talked about here today and our situation. And also to go all the way back to like 2013 where this all began for us. It kind of tells our entire story and where we're headed next. But yeah, just honestly, we're in the studio a lot. We're making a lot of music. We want to keep putting out music, keep putting out videos, and
She's gonna be a dad, you know. That's
yeah,
big.
I'm gonna be a dad.
We're gonna have to figure out how to like get the baby on the road with us. You know,
Absolutely.
We definitely want
like
the baby on the
she's
road.
gonna have to have the earmuffs on, you know, side
it's a
stage.
girl?
It's a girl, yeah.
Aww.
I know. Yeah, it's the sweetest thing in the world. I can't wait. I have no idea, like, the type of love I'm going to feel. Everyone says, you know, with
It
that
changes.
first baby.
Yeah.
I feel like you were meant to be a girl dad first. I don't know why.
100%.
It just feels right. for
It
some
does
reason.
feel right, I will
And him
say.
and Geneva, his girlfriend, they have all sisters, both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have, like, a ton of aunts. Like, everyone.
Yeah.
She's going to have, like,
you
The uncles are
wrapped
just-
around her.
The homies and
Yeah,
uncles.
I
you
know.
Yeah, so
I know, I'm going to be upset.
I'm excited to be an honorary uncle, but we're gonna have to figure out because obviously those first few months, like you're really gonna want to be with her.
Yeah, we
and
wouldn't even go on tour.
Maybe
at
it's
the
like a
end of the
one-off
year.
show or like, you know, a
Yeah.
festival show.
I'm
But
down
I don't
with
think we'll
that.
do like a big run in terms of like tour run up until probably like
2023.
midway into 2023, maybe mid-early. I don't know. We'll
Who
figure
knows?
it out.
Yeah, but that's a huge thing. We definitely want to get back on tour because that's like
We missed the road a lot.
we just
You
missed
wanna
that
see and touch the
connection.
people.
Facts.
Exactly. Meet and greets and even just getting up on stage and
There's
seeing
nothing like
people sing those lyrics.
There's no high like being on stage.
No,
like,
it's the
straight up.
best.
At least that I know of. But
Yeah, me neither. So we're
Sure, there's
really
something
excited
there.
for all the things.
Before you go, I always wanted to know if you are on stage, right? You're performing, and somebody's in the audience and they're singing.
Yeah.
And they're just like so loud. Does it ever distract you?
No.
Well,
luckily-
not necessarily because you have an any.
We got the
right?
Yeah,
in-ears.
we
Right.
can't even really hear them.
Yeah.
But
Unless
it-
you put your mic over.
if anything, it like really gives you energy to feed off of. Like if I see someone belting the lyrics, I will lock in with them. And you know, sometimes if it's a song that might be a deeper cut in the catalog and not a ton of people seem to, like,
Right.
you know, it might be an older cut.
doesn't have like 100 million streams, but this girl knows every
Yeah,
word.
it's like sometimes like there's dead like areas of the crowd because they're like, oh, what is this song? But then you'll find that one person who knows it, and you're like, oh, it gives you that energy right back.
like
So it's,
you just know she's listened to the entire album front to back. And that makes you feel like, oh my God, like I remember all those sleepless nights in the studio writing random lyrics that
Makes
like,
it all worth it.
yeah, and it's like,
and she's
she
singing that right
knows
there.
those lyrics. Like it's just crazy. And that's also a trip is like when you remember like the exact moment where you wrote this lyric and
Like
it's like,
popped into your head.
it's not going to be
yeah.
like a massive pop song, this one. Like it could be, but it didn't end up being. And then you see this one person just knowing every lyric and they connect to that song so deeply.
Just makes us feel grateful for
Yeah.
you know how hard they rock with us. And yeah, I mean the louder the better at shows. So for anybody watching out there coming to a J&J show soon, we,
Yeah.
we need you top
Sing
of your
it.
lungs. Come
Sing
on.
it.
I would think that you would sing directly to that person.
Oh, straight
For
up.
sure.
Yeah.
Happens a lot. Yeah.
Guys, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much
Likewise,
for having
my
us.
man. This was awesome.
Yeah, we appreciate you.